What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to another video, another day, another dollar with your boy. And we're going to be breaking down our ES futures contract, and we'll look at SPY as well, mostly in the bigger picture. However, I haven't talked to you guys in, I think, a couple of days. I think I posted last week. I just haven't been posting any videos as we've been in a bit of consolidation. Not much has really changed. And I take it most of you guys who do watch this, if anybody does, probably know how to mark their charts by this point in time, as we primarily look at our 30-minute time frame every day here, and we mark our charts every day here, so stick around for that. But we'll just go ahead and dive right into it. We're going to look at our 30-minute time frames here. We'll look at the bigger picture in both SPY and in ES. We'll look at the monthly, the weekly, and daily, just kind of get you guys updated on that. And then we'll, just kind of close her out. So hopefully you guys stick around. If you do not mind, leave a like down below. Comment, how'd you trade? Do you trade? What do you trade? When do you trade? Why do you trade? Etc. etc. But let's just go ahead and get into it. So over the last week or so, we've just been kind of in this consolidation period, and basically pretty much just in about a 100-point range. Basically down from 51.57 to 52.57, we've been in a 100-point range. So let's go ahead and mark that out real quick. We'll just just kind of in the area or the vicinity, kind of mark these levels. It's not going to be exact, but just so you guys have an idea of what that looks like. And we'll, kind of break down what's been happening. So we've been trading within this range for quite some time. A lot of you guys call it a channel. I like to call it balance. Market profile users call it balance. So that's what we're going to refer to as balance, where we're just kind of chopping in this range, in this zone. We've tested both the top of the range, we've tested the top of the balance high, and we've tested the balance low. And we've experienced both of the rules that come into play whenever you have balance. We've experienced balance rules on the high side and balance rules on the low side. So basically the balance rules, for those of you that don't know, basically you are in balance, right? Whenever you're in a balanced market, you get, one of the rules is getting near a balance high or low, and testing it and rolling over towards the other end of the range. So in this case, up here, we tested the balance high. Couldn't quite break out of the balance. Guess what? Balance rules. We roll over to the other side of the range. We get down here. We test the side of the balance low. Balance rules come into effect. We roll back up and test the other side of the range. What buyers did not want to see is another failure at the balance high. And then today we finally get to experience the third balance rule, right? The second balance rule is getting through a balance high or low and slightly stretching it. In this case, it was the third balance rule, which is breaking out of balance, meaning we have some type of trend whenever we break out of balance, and you get really good continuation to the upside or the downside, whichever way the balance is. In this case, we finally broke out of this multi-day balance that we've been trading in. We broke out of this 100-point range that we've been trading in finally, right? It's been very choppy. We've had gaps down, gaps up, gaps sideways, gaps diagonal, gaps all over the fucking place. We've gapped all over. We went out yesterday with a trend day up, double distribution day up, and an outside day up potential. Okay. Double distribution day, outside day up potential. We gapped up the day before, gapped down on Tuesday, filled the gap only to grind all the way up and take out Monday's high. And then today, Wednesday, big Fed day, we finally broke out of balance and have a confirmation of both an outside day down or outside day up and a break of balance by going trend and ending with another double distribution day to the upside. So what does this mean for the market? Well, right now the market is what we like to say, one time framing up. What does that mean? Well, that means that the likelihood of us continuing to take out previous day's highs and previous time frames highs remain good at this very moment. Now, tomorrow, if we come in, we very well could chop around inside of today's range between, let's say, 52.71 and the day's high, 52.89, and kind of, digest what has happened today, right? We could easily do that. We could also just as easy chop between the high of 89.50 and where we spiked higher from at 47. We could easily chop inside that range, kind of testing the balance high area a few times before we finally get a move up. Or we could just continue to one time framing up by taking out today's high of 89.50 and just moving on up through the 5,300 level on the upside. Really good volume in the last few time frames, but that's basically what you look for whenever you have a market that is in balance. You look for, you got to respect the rules. There are 3 of them. Today we experienced the 3rd one and finally got a decent size move moving forward. Now, with that, we shall, on pullbacks, be comfortable looking for longs until you take out a previous day's low. That would stop the one-time framing up, right? So in the bigger picture on the daily time frame, we'll look to continue to push up higher and take out previous day's highs. And if we do continue to do such, then on any pullback that you feel comfortable and you have good risk reward, you take a long position, right? Just as these people here, right, they were in balance. They were taking shorts against this balance high, thinking, okay, I get short 46, around 46, 47. We get out 57. We're looking to rotate all the way back down to around 57 down here, 51, 57. We can bank a couple points on the downside, risking 10 points. We make 70 on the downside, maybe 60 on the downside. Really good risk reward. Same thing down here, right? You had some covering. You have some swing traders getting into the market thinking, all right, maybe we hold this balance low. We get long 67, risk 10 points on the downside to rotate back up towards the upside and test the balance high at 57. We're looking to gain, 30, 60, somewhere in that range points on the upside. And then obviously if you held, you made money. So buyers were, fairly comfortable on the pullback here. Sellers were comfortable on the pullback here. Now we have a one-sided trade, right? You don't want to be selling at the highs. Why? Because the likelihood of taking out a previous time frame's high or the previous day's high is good due to the fact that we've just broken out of a multi-day balance and we're one time framing up on the daily now. And there's more behind it. We'll look at that with the weekly and the monthly, as well as in the bigger picture. Things are looking very, very strong for the buyers. All right. Now, let's go ahead and mark our destinations and just kind of move on from this, right? We went out yesterday with the double distribution day and outside day up. We basically traded inside of the upper distribution all day for majority of the day until the last few time frames of the evening. Basically, once the Fed, once Jerome Powell, Pump It Up Powell, finally decided to come out and make his regards on the economy and interest rates, we got a pretty good spike up, came back, tested the open, held the open to the tick, and then rotated back up higher, resulting in a double distribution day up. Took out several of these days highs right here. It is pretty impressive how many we had in a row next to each other and finally broke out. I did attempt a trade today. Got hurt yesterday. Did not trade Monday. Got hurt a little bit yesterday. Gave some profits back. And then today I was looking to get long on if we at any point in time had a pretty good pullback down to around the 20 level, I would have been looking to get long. We never actually did. And, rightfully so. We were in the upper distribution, trading in the upper distribution all day. Likelihood of us taking out the previous day's high was pretty good, or testing the balance high was pretty good, especially if they liked what the Fed was saying. And clearly they did. So we, kind of burst out of this range with really good tempo and volume to the upside. We do have a wide point of control here. I think this is 9 wide. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 wide. We end 10 wide. And that is going to be 10 wide right here at 42.25. So we'll mark that as well. Let's go ahead and mark our low of day way down here at 52.33. And anybody saying that they bought the lows down here and held it and rode it all the way up to the upside, bullshit, full of bullshit, full of shit. You're lying. There was absolutely no reason for you to buy down here. Well, I guess maybe there was a reason to buy. maybe to fade the extreme to come back into the point of control, which at the time was 42.25. So you're making 10 points. But where's your out on the downside, right? Is your out down here at 28.25? Is it down here at 26.25? You have a whole lot of risk on the downside there. That's why I was more comfortable looking for the long inside of that set of single prints. Never got there, right? Even if you did take the long, congratulations. Your target should have been at the very least point of control 42.25, and then the high of day 47.75. Saying that you caught it all the way up to the highs, bullshit. Now I can see maybe getting long on the pullback here at 42.41 against the open, using the previous time frames low 36.50 as you're out. But even then, that's pretty risky just due to the algorithms and short-term traders just kind of whipping it all over the place. Especially when we had this spike up, you opened with single prints and then came in rather aggressively to fill that set of single prints, only to rotate back up higher and create another set of single prints that wasn't very large and only held by a couple of points. So not the strongest, but nonetheless still a trend day up. So sorry about that rant. Let's go ahead and mark these destinations and look at the bigger picture. Hello, day 3, 20 of 24. And we're experiencing history. I mean, this is all-time highs across the market. Pretty impressive. Point of control. Let's go ahead and mark that bad boy right here at 42.25 is going to be our 10Y point of control. Wide point of control, so that will be a downside destination. Act like a magnet if we ever do get back into the lower distribution, and I'll show you exactly where the lower distribution is in just a second. Now let's go ahead and mark the high of day and then work our way down from there. High of day is going to be right here at 89.50, and if the market was truly strong, you should have had a price probe late in the day showing really good strength on the upside. I mean, don't take anything away from the buyers here. It was a strong push up, but you would have liked to see more confirmation by holding another set of single prints on the upside and then probing, basically meaning we spike above this time frame here high of 88.50, and then you do what happened in the after hours, right? You spike from 88.50 up to 95.75, maybe 43 or 5,300, right? You spike up, use that as a price spike or price probe, but we did not have that late in the day. So yeah, high day. Right there at 89.50. We have single prints that start down here at 71.25. Single prints that start at 71.25. Right there, boom, boom, boom. So that will, as it was something to lean against today, that will become a downside destination to see if you hold, not really lean against, but see if you hold that area, maybe take a long the first time there, but more than likely it will become a destination on the downside to fill right here at 67 where the single prints fill on the downside. And then once again, I will describe and show you guys what the upper distribution and lower distribution look like. Upper distribution significantly smaller than what the lower distribution is. All right, so you have that set of single prints right there from 52.71.25 to 52.67, and that is it. So what do your distributions look like? All right, your lower distribution is going to be from 67. I'm highlighting it. All right, 67 all the way down to the day's low of 33, from 52.67 to 52.33, basically a 34-point range that we could chop around in if we have any acceptance within the lower distribution. Buyers want to open above 71.25 and take out the day's high up here at 89.50, or even remain in the upper distribution and chop around up here versus down here, kind of like we did today, where this was the upper distribution from yesterday. You can see how we chopped around inside of that range. You can see how we chopped around inside of that range, finding acceptance in that upper distribution before moving higher. that is what you want to see tomorrow, possibly, is opening. If we don't open up with a gap, we should open up inside of this upper distribution, basically above 71.25, have some consolidation, and then continue to one time frame up by taking out 89.50, and then 80 or 5,300 would be your next upside target, right? Or the overnight high, wherever that's at. But visually right now, just 5,300 would be a visual target on the upside if we do not open up with a gap. Now, worst case scenario is, right? Worst case scenario is opening up inside of this lower distribution below 67. You do not want to do that. That is a no-go zone, because if we do that, the chances of us taking out the day's low is pretty good. Vice versa, or not vice versa, but on the other hand, if we open up in the upper distribution and cannot find acceptance up here, right? We don't find acceptance, meaning we don't spend a lot of time and volume in this upper distribution. We take out 71.25, we get below 67. We find a little bit of acceptance below 67. You have a vacuum and a magnet down to 42.25, right? That would be the only area I would possibly look to the long in that case, is down here at 42.25. All right. If not, then your next downside destination is going to be 52.33, and then where these sets of single prints start and fill on the downside. And then you have that lower distribution that you most certainly want to hold around 52.11.50, where that starts. But because of everything in the bigger picture, market's looking to turn up, so we want to open up in that upper distribution. Hopefully that all makes sense. Now, let's go ahead and look at the larger time frames. Let's look at the monthly real quick. We're going to look at ES before we look at SPY. They both have very similar price action to an extent, as everything is trying to line up. And look at that. We hit the target that I put up there on the 13th. I put 52.60. Was not expecting us to hit it right away, but I put that there back on January 13th at the beginning of the year as a pretty much a fib extension on the upside. And just for shits and giggles, let me see if I can recreate that fib extension. And I think it was the 618 maybe, or the 100. Oh no, what was it? It was the 100. That's what it was. That was the reason my target. So that was a 100% move from that monthly balance low to where we broke out, right? So that was a 100% move. That's why I put that target there on the upside. That's how I got that target from the 13th, or on the 13th, right? I was just messing around with fibs, just trying to check it out, and I figured a 100% move from there to there would be very, very good. Now, the 168, let's just measure again just to see where that's at. Just for shits and gigs, right? Let's mess around a little bit. The 168. 168 up there at 59.46.83. Let's just right here today, let's go ahead and make that our upside. Let's just say 49.50. The target for 2024, like end of year. Let's just put end of year target. All right, that's going to be our end of year target. We'll put that up there, and then let's make it a wonky color. What color should we use? So let's use that. Make it a 3, make it dashed. Boom, there's our end of year target on the upside. 59.50. All right, so that is going to be our end of year upside target on the monthly time frame. We've been one time framing up 1, 2, 3, 4 months in a row. Really good extension above the previous month's high. It just goes to show you that in the bigger picture, the trend is still very strong. All right, this trend is still very strong on the upside. Now let's go ahead and look at our weekly. Weekly, a little different from what SPY is, but our weekly was in a balance, okay? 2 weeks ago, we were in a balance. We broke out of that balance, one time frame up. Guess what? We continue to one time frame up in the weekly, holding. We pulled back, what was the low there? 95.25. We pulled back just 2 points above what our previous balance high was, held it, and boom, look at that. Getting good extension above last week's high, positive for the buyers, right? Weekly, one time framing up, monthly, one time framing up. Let's go ahead and look at our daily. This was our daily balance that we were in. All right, daily balance. We're chopping around inside this 100-point range. We broke out of that balance pretty good today, right? Broke out of that balance really, really well. Outside day up scenario, very, very positive. We are now one time framing up on the daily again, back to up, one time framing up. And if this trend is strong, we should continue to take out previous day's highs and continue to push higher. Today's volume, not half bad, just about average actually. Average is about 1.2 mil. We did 1.1 in ES. 20-day moving average, 51, 55. 50-day moving average, 5,017. All right, so now inside of that gap on the downside. We have yet to fill that gap on the downside. We have filled all the other gaps on the downside so far, except for that large one here. And then there are obviously a couple more on the downside, but that is the main target on the downside if we were to really get any pullback of any aggression. But right now, with everything looking up, monthly up, weekly up, daily up, the trend is up. So I would not be shorting this animal. All right, would not be shorting this animal. Now let's go ahead and look at the SPY. Let's look at SPY here. Let's look at SPY. SPY, one time framing up. No, that's not what I want. SPY is one time framing up, basically the same as the ES chart. Just one breaking out 1, 2, 3, 4 months in a row, continues to have a really good extension. Weekly, this is where things are different, right? Whereas ES was in a balance, SPY never took out a previous week's low. They continued a one time frame up. They also had an inside week last week. Guess what? We have an inside week up scenario now, as we took out last week's high, which was 517. We are now at 520. 517 we took out. We're now at 520, and we took out 518.22. So all-time highs here for SPY. Very, very positive for buyers, right? Looking good for the buyers. So an outside week up scenario continues to be one time framing up. Has been one time framing up for several weeks in a row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 weeks in a row now. An inside week does not stop the one time framing down. The only thing that does is taking out a previous week's low. All right, so weekly continues to one time framing up. Very, very positive for the weekly. And the daily, we were in a balance just like we were in ES. Finally breaking out of that balance on the upside. Very good hold here of the balance low and the 20-day moving average. Look at that bounce. Look at that trampoline. Boom, boom. All right. 50-day moving average down here at 497.79. 20-day moving average at 511.45. SPY, very strong, very healthy. Continues to one time frame up on the daily. And let's see here. Just for shits and giggles, let's look at NQ. Let's look at NASDAQ. Shall we? NASDAQ, I believe, was in a similar balance area. Broke out of balance, so one time framing up on the daily at all-time highs now. Held their 20-day moving average. 2 times now have held their 20-day moving average, and one time framing up has resumed in Q. All right, in Q, one time framing up. Weekly. Let's look at weekly. What was the weekly doing? Balance, one time frame up, balance, one time frame up, one time frame up. So we're going to say that the weekly is up in NQ. A NASDAQ weekly, one time framing up now, breaking out of balance, wants to hold above 18,491. 18,491 you need to hold above in NQ. And the monthly should be one time framing up. So one time framing up in all of their time frames as well. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you all have a wonderful day. Thanks for stopping by. If you did enjoy the video and you made it this far, leave a like down below. And yeah, thanks.